The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
I'm just saying, that's a long intro for us to have the conversation that we had and still have time to be ready to go on when we're ready to. People listening at home will have no idea what the hell I'm talking about right now, but Brandon does, and frankly, that's all that matters to me in this instance. Oh, hi everyone. Welcome to the SmackDown Not So Live review.
Breaking the fourth wall there, Harry.
A little bit. Welcome to the SmackDown Not So Live review. Yeah, about that. Oops.
Long week. Yeah, we didn't even do a Raw at all this week.
Well, in fairness, you didn't miss a whole heck of a lot.
No,
it was basically last week's episode of Raw just reheated.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I said let's not even bother this week.
It was Raw leftovers.
Yep,
oh,
pretty
nobody
much.
wants Raw leftovers.
No, not at all.
Oh, hi. Thanks for listening. Your host, my name is Mary Broadhurst. As you may or may not have noticed, the co-hostess with the mostest, Miss Liz Puglisi, is unable to be here with us due to our delayed recording time. She has personal, real-life obligations that come first, and we understand that. Joining me at this time, the Johnny Lawrence to my Daniel LaRusso, Brandon Biskobing.
Yeah, I know. Tori gave you that one, and you've been waiting for a few weeks for that one. I know.
I couldn't do it immediately after she gave it to me.
Cobra Kai!
I had to put some delay on there. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go wax a vehicle. Wax on, wax off.
Well, this actually segues perfectly into the opening segment, considering the man we're about to talk about has been using a lot of that recently.
Seriously, it's like he watched Cobra Kai on YouTube Red and decided to make it part of his gimmick.
Pretty much.
The man we're referring to. Oh, this is the SmackDown Live review for. Frick, I forgot what day it was because we're doing
26th.
For June 26th, 2018. We're doing this on such a delay, I forget these things.
It's called subtraction, Harry. Try it sometime.
Yeah, well, math, not always my friend. My head's full of numbers from keeping track of the World Cup statistics that I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, you're way beyond addition and subtraction right now.
So I've been focusing on getting all the World Cup stuff together for when we do our World Cup wrap-up a little bit later on in the year. Anyway.
I'm just glad I still have one team to root for in the World Cup now.
For more information about this, check out Soccer to the Max with Sean Garmer, Eric Watkins, and Rachel McKeeger. Shell. Okay. Now that my shameless plugging is out of the way for now, let's go ahead and get into tonight's episode, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right, before we do so, though, there's something about tonight's episode that we need to discuss.
Oh, what that?
In the world of title shots, it's a dog-eat-dog world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently, in the world of title shots, it's also a dog-eat-Nakamura world.
Oh, God. I should have seen that one coming. Damn it.
Yeah, no Shinsuke, because he got bit by a police dog. I question what Shinsuke did to get a police dog to bite him.
Especially considering the dog doesn't need to worry about, or at least I would assume not. I'm assuming the dog wouldn't have to worry about Shinsuke doing his famous arm to crotch move on him, considering the dog would not have any.
Well, the dog bit him on the leg, so my guess is that Shinsuke looked at the dog and went, "Got on!" I'm a terrible person, but we're going to go ahead and move on.
Yeah.
All right, so our opening segment for SmackDown Live for this week is Miz TV, kind of, ish, sort of. I mean, there were guests, but they weren't really guests, and then they had stuff to say, but they didn't say it to My point being is that he brought out the Bludgeon Brothers after what happened in the Gauntlet match last week. And Harper and Rowan made their way down to the ring and didn't really do a whole lot in the way of interviewing.
Well, it's the Bludgeon Brothers.
Daniel Bryan did a whole lot in the way of interrupting, though, as he comes out and puts an end to this pity party. Miz tries to stir the pot between the Bludgeon Brothers and Bryan. Bryan says that he still wants Miz after the sneaky way that Miz won about last week. But Bryan says that he will wait and get to Miz in his proper time because first he take care of the Bludgeon Brothers. Harper steals the microphone from Miz and says, Bryan, you clearly don't learn, referring to when Bryan was taken out by big guys in his original run as champion, and then basically telling him that it's going to be the Bludgeon Brother Harper versus Daniel Bryan a little bit later on in tonight's show. Your thoughts on the opening segment?
I mean, I was okay with it. It's definitely, Bludgeon Brothers aren't exactly the best people to have on Miz TV since they're the silent but deadly types. So they're not exactly a great interview. But, the segment worked for what they were planning on doing, which is having a match between Bryan and one of the Bludgeon Brothers, hence setting up what happens at the end of the show, which we'll talk about later.
Actually, if you want to, we can segue this right into the match.
If you want to skip all the way to the main event and then go in between at the end, that's perfectly fine.
Forget it. We'll go straight top to bottom here.
Yeah.
Xavier Woods drinks a pancake milkshake before his match with Rusev. Take a sec. See, Brandon, you are exactly what's wrong with this booking.
What? I don't think it's completely retarded.
Hey, watch the use of that word. That's how we get in trouble.
Yes. Completely stupid?
Dumb, stupid, idiotic, ignorant, self-absorbed, one-dimensional. Shall I continue? Pancakes aren't funny!
Obviously it's selling well enough that they haven't changed it in, 4 or 5 months that they've been doing this?
At least the cereal was funny.
What?
At least the cereal was kind of funny.
True.
And I still want my ice cream pops. Punk couldn't get them. New Day couldn't get them. Can somebody get me ice cream?
Where are my WWE ice cream bars?
Sorry. Had a kill switch engage this fire burns moment for a second there. I'm good. Xavier Woods and the New Day come out first. Aw, Sandy. Wait, Fresno?
Ontario.
Where the f*** is that?
Kind of close to LA, but not really.
They were in San Diego for Raw, weren't they?
Yes.
Okay, whatever. Well, wherever they are, New Day's there too.
They just said Cali, I think. They didn't even say the city.
That's because Big E had no clue where the hell they were either. Anyway, so the New Day's down at ringside, and it's Xavier Woods in singles action against Rusev. And first of all, props to Aiden English for completely going through Rusev's introduction while Big E and Kofi were attempting to pelt him with pancakes. I would like to officially nominate Aiden English for goddamn professional. Second, I want to give a lot of credit to Corey Graves here, bringing up the history of these two men in NXT. When you have young talent such as this, you have the opportunity to kind of tell their backstory by going into the archives here and encouraging people to go onto the WWE Network, which I think is like $9.62 a month or something. I forget the exact. But anyway, you have the entire story in the archives of the WWE Network, and you can tell these kind of layered stories here. Like, yeah, Xavier Woods is constantly taking a crap kicking from Rusev.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's something that Corey can do, especially with some of the older NXT alumni, and even some of the younger one because he was a commentator. But even more so with the older guys because he was also a wrestler in NXT at that point.
I believe the word you're looking for there is he is a contemporary.
Yes, precisely.
The match itself sees Machka Crush! As once again, it's Xavier Woods tapping like Mr. Bojangles on speed. 8 minutes and 55 seconds with the accolade. Rusev picks up the victory here. All right, so we kind of talked about this last week when we had when Rusev won the gauntlet match here, and now we see him getting a clean as day finish over Xavier here with the accolade here. Do you think it's wise that he's going after these singles victories on the build-up to money on the build-up to Extreme Rules? Or do you think it's not going to make a whole lot of difference here and you're not giving Rusev any kind of a shot against AJ Styles?
I mean, I'm not really going to give him much of a shot at this point anyway, but the fact that they're giving him the singles win, I mean, you can look at it in kind of two ways. On one hand, they're trying to make him look like a legitimate contender and make him look strong going into the match. But also at the same time, they're giving him those wins so that the loss against AJ doesn't hurt him too much. It's that whole reverse momentum theorem that WWE loves to do. But, I don't think he's going to win at Extreme Rules, but I don't think it will be the end either.
Rusev then cuts a promo about AJ Styles, stating that he knows that AJ isn't here tonight and it's because AJ is scared. In reality, AJ's doing promotional work for Super Showdown in Australia, neither here nor there. The point being that AJ said that showed that he was scared when he attacked Aiden English last week, which kind of puts a different spin on things than what we thought was going to happen based on English getting knocked down by Styles there and Rusev seemingly looking at English like, why did you go up to him like that? This particular instance here, we see Rusev actually sticking up for Aiden English.
I think
maybe the rumors of Rusev Day's breakup are a little bit premature.
I don't think so. I think this is going to be a situation where they're going to make Rusev seem like he's still sticking up for Aiden up until the match itself. And then I have a feeling that Aiden will do something I have a feeling we're going to have a situation where AJ will win. Rusev goes for the handshake post-match, because he has respect for AJ at this point. And Aiden will attack him from behind, and then Rusev will go after Aiden as a result.
But I don't think Rusev necessarily goes after Aiden, but I think he stops the attack at the very.
But especially if his face turn is going to result in the breakup of Rusev Day, I would assume that would have to be the way that it would end.
Well, you assume that they're going to break up Rusev Day already. They are coming up on SummerSlam, but there are still other pay-per-views to get through for Rusev in English that I think that they're going to need to fill the time and the downtime for the storylines right now.
I feel like, and I mean, this is even looking at, past precedences. They don't seem like while Rusev is getting a push at the moment, they don't seem like they'd be big enough of a team, and Aiden would be enough of a deal that they drag on a feud between the two. I feel like if they're gonna do a breakup at this point, have this happen. What I'm saying, have Rusev, Machka kick Aiden out of the ring. Have them have a match at SummerSlam, with Rusev going over clean, and then that propels Rusev further into the title hunt, and he's in the hunt throughout the fall.
Well, I think there are other people on SmackDown who haven't played a factor in a while that still need to come back into various pictures as well. I think that you're looking at like two teams that weren't seen on SmackDown tonight, one of them being the Good Brothers, and the other one being the Bar. Like, I think the Good Brothers' time with the tag team titles is done, but I think Aiden and Rusev going after the tag team titles is something that would make sense, and I think you could definitely see the fans getting behind Rusev Day going after the tag titles. I think a attempt at the tag team titles and then them failing to succeed there through accidental miscommunication would probably be a more likely catalyst for a split.
That could be a potential, but especially, I mean, we'll talk about this more at the end, at the end of the show, or during the last segment. But with the way they seem to be going with the tag titles now, I don't think they have the time for a loss and breakup between those two between now and, if they want to try to do something with Rusev, moving forward.
We'll see what happens going into Extreme Rules. It should be a fun match all the same, though, because it's definitely one that the fans are going to be invested in. Because Rusev Day, while maybe not as over as it originally was, is still a very popular act, and AJ Styles might be the most over performer in the company ring.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of performers, we go backstage to a Jeff Hardy promo, and, well, yeah. Apparently, Jeff's back to dropping acid.
I'm kind of disappointed that I guess it's not fully Willow, but, I wish they would have kept the white face paint.
I think he's going back to the multicolor face paint that he was doing back in, 08, 09.
Yeah, that's what it would seem like.
Maybe they got cold feet about the whole Willow thing.
Maybe.
Not to mention, I feel like Willow Hardy is more of a heel Jeff incarnation than a babyface.
That could be true, but you could definitely make it to where it is more babyface.
Again, Dog Eat Nakamura World, Jeff Hardy has an open challenge for a little bit later on in the show.
Yep.
Lana and Naomi are arguing backstage when the cast of Glow approaches. Ya freaking who. I'm planning on watching Glow, but at this point, these ladies mean nothing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Although the one in the blue shirt did have a nice chest, so, she's got that going for her. I'm still a guy, Brandon. Still a guy. Still a guy. What can I say?
Yep.
It's a good thing Allison Brie brought her Russian accent, because Lana seems to have forgotten hers.
I was just gonna say that. Can we please, have them make a, I know it's at least partially her fault, because she's not exactly the greatest actress in the world, obviously. But, can the writers just say, stick to one or the other? Either have her completely drop the whole ravishing Russian thing and have her talk in a regular accent, or have her get some more lessons of how to keep it on a regular basis. Because it just sounds horrible when she's cutting back and forth.
I don't understand why they want me to talk like this. Yeah, it's like pick one and stick with it,
Exactly.
Either do the accent or just admit that you're Floridian, Canada by way of Florida.
Yep.
And be done with it.
Yep.
That you only machka that way to meet Rusev.
Mm-hmm.
No one would blame you. Rusev is awesome.
Although I could make a really bad True Blood joke about that whole thing.
You'd go over my head because I don't watch.
Fair enough.
Finally, about a half an hour into the show, our opening contest.
No, this isn't the opening contest. You didn't even do the contest schedule for the first match. Wait up.
I missed it.
Well done.
I missed it. No.
You fail.
I do. Our next contest scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
I'm such a terrible host. Is the U.S. title open challenge match as Jeff Hardy defends against Eric Young, and holy crap, TNA has invaded the WWE. No, in all sincerity, Eric Young representing Sanity. I gotta say, not the match I expected for Eric's first solo match on SmackDown. Agreed?
No, not at all. And I was not expecting them to have Eric Young have a singles, I won't necessarily call it a push right away, but a singles match this quickly into Sanity's debut. I was thinking they would keep them as a faction for a good,
Well, you say that. Let's talk about what happens.
Well, yes, of course. But I honestly could see this going in some sort of direction.
Killian Dane and Alexander Axeman Wolf are at ringside to accompany Eric Young. The crowd gets distracted while both performers are down in the ring following an attempt at the Twist of Fate by Jeff Hardy, and we see why they are distracted. Over by the timekeeper tables, it's the Ooze!
O's.
And they get into a brawl with Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf. Eric Young joins the fracas. Jeff Hardy joins the fracas. And we have a double disqualification. Well, technically speaking, since they assaulted Young in the ring, Eric Young wins by DQ at 9 minutes and 50 seconds. Thoughts on the match?
I mean, it was a good match for what, they were building towards. These two, I think, could definitely have better matches, especially for a title. I don't know, did they ever face in TNA?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. I figured they would have, considering they were both in TNA
I'm pretty sure they probably faced off at some point while Eric was TNA champion as well.
Yeah. So, these two can definitely put on matches together. I would love to see this lead towards something. I was honestly surprised that they didn't extend this out and have this be, because I was thinking, as soon as the Usos attacked, I was thinking, oh, they're gonna have like a 6-man tag match at Extreme Rules between Sanity and Hardy and the Usos.
Not so fast.
Nope. But I could see them. Well, I'll talk about that after this. So let's talk about the rest of this, and then I'll put in my thoughts.
Yes, that's why I said not so fast here.
Yes.
Jeff Hardy and the Usos clear the ring. We go to commercial, and when we come back from commercial,
we got
the Teddy Long special has reared its ugly head. It's a tag match.
Player.
Of the 6-man variety, as Jeff Hardy and the Usos are taking on Sanity. And in, frankly, a bit of a shock to me, and I do not like this.
No.
Sanity loses their first match on SmackDown as Alexander Wolf eats the Swanton Bomb from Jeff Hardy for the pinfall at 6 minutes and 50 seconds.
So, I know this is very, very premature, but between Sanity, Asuka, there's a plethora of other people I can talk about. Are you ready to listen to me yet?
No.
I figured as much, but I have yet to be proven wrong.
No, I mean, there's a certain amount of dues paying when you get up to the main roster.
But at the same time, I think of NXT to WWE, especially. I know this is a very bad comparison, but it is a bad comparison, but it isn't at the same time.
Are you about to make the AAA comparison again?
No. Similar, though. This is actually a wrestling comparison. I would say that NXT to WWE, to an extent, you can make the argument of, you have the house show NXT as, like, being the Young Lions. You have NXT as, like, being on excursion, and then when they get up to the main roster, you can use them very strongly right off the bat, like New Japan does with some of their guys that come back from excursion, like Jay White. I don't think you need to have, especially with a team that's supposed to be strong, and you're trying to build, you don't want to build a team or a wrestler by having them lose. That just, takes all the wind out of someone.
Yeah, I think having Sanity lose a 6-man tag team match does them a lot more damage than having them lose what would have been the singles match for Eric Young, or what could have possibly been a straight-up tag match last week against the Usos for Killian Dane and Alexander Wolf.
Especially when it's not against another faction.
It's not an established 6-man team in the Usos and Hardy.
Exactly. This is basically saying, their chemistry... Well, I mean, this is pretty much WWE's MO for the past 3 years now. But, factions and cohesive, what's the word I'm looking for? Organic tag teams are not as good as mishmash tag teams in the WWE, apparently.
Right. You get an issue with situations like this here. My bigger issue, though, as far as this whole thing goes, with Sanity and Jeff Hardy, and is that this whole thing is probably going to be forgotten once Nakamura is cleared by the doctors, and we go back into the Nakamura and Jeff Hardy situation.
Yeah,
because then you're just going to end up leaving a blemish on Sanity's record for no real discernible reason, because it was Jeff that got the pinfall and not one of the Usos, so it's not like Sanity can take it out on Hardy.
Yeah, exactly. One.
Our next contest scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
I'm so disappointed that I forgot Bridges. That chaps my britches. All right, anyway. It's women's division action as Becky Lynch takes on Sonya Deville. For those of you who may have watched last week, this was supposed to be Becky Lynch versus Peyton Royce, but, well, there's this whole Australia Super Show coming.
Oh, okay, that's why. I was wondering, because I read the preview for SmackDown, as I always do, before the show, and it said she was going to face Peyton Royce. Or was it supposed to be Peyton Royce or Billy Kay? I forget.
Peyton.
Okay.
Peyton. It was Billy. I'm pretty sure it was Billy Kay last week.
Yeah. But then, it turned out not to be so.
Well, I don't know if you're aware of this. There's this show coming up in Australia on October 6th.
Yes,
the other part of this you might not be aware of is that Peyton Royce is Australian.
I know this.
Well, she was needed for promotional purposes. Therefore, this match becomes Becky Lynch versus Sonya Deville.
Yes.
And after a meeting of Mandy's blonde, so maybe not Minds. Go ahead, send all hate mail to me. I don't care. s.garmer@gmail.com. Becky Lynch catches Sonya Deville in the disarmor for the submission victory at 8 minutes and 55 seconds. Your thoughts, Brandon?
It wasn't a bad match. Both of these two, they're both submission specialists, so they go, it was interesting seeing them going after the submissions. So it was a solid match. Nothing too spectacular, but a solid match. And it's not. And it's they're giving Becky a bit of a push right now. So.
Yeah, she didn't win Money in the Bank, which I admittedly was a little bit disappointing. But again, I thought that the women's Money in the Bank was going to Raw because the men's was coming to SmackDown. So, and then both of them went to Raw. So what the hell do I know?
Hey! At least you weren't like me, and I thought there was no chance that either one was going to Raw. And then, I thought the women's might have gone to Raw. I thought it was going to be Natalya, but I didn't think there was any shot of it going to Raw for the men's. And sure enough, it ends up going to Raw. So,
on the person who needs it the least.
Yep. That's a discussion for another show.
Anyway. So, Becky does pick up a victory here. It's nice for Becky to be on a little bit of a winning streak here in singles action and kind of in tag team action, because I think she got a tag team victory in there as well. Realistically, though, with Asuka getting the rematch, we'll get to this in the next segment, I do believe. With Asuka getting the next title match at Extreme Rules, The only way this makes any sense for Becky to stay on the winning streak that she's on is if she's going to be the challenger at SummerSlam, and Asuka's going to fail once again at Extreme Rules.
Oh, God, if that happens. I mean, unless they're going to build her up to where, you know, maybe she finagles her way into a triple threat or something.
I mean, that way Asuka could be in the match and Becky take the fall.
No, I'm not talking at Extreme Rules. I'm talking at SummerSlam. Asuka wins the title at Extreme Rules, and Becky, with her, you know, momentum going, she gets put into the match.
We'll have to see what happens. But first, what we're going to see happen is James Ellsworth and Asuka have a confrontation. We see Ellsworth backstage wearing an Asuka match when Ty Dillinger approaches. Good for Ty to get television time. Ellsworth takes off the mask and Dillinger puts it back on him. Okay, that bit made me chuckle.
Oh, that and James thinking he was a 10 and Ty closing his hand saying nope, and he's thinking, oh, just a 5, and then he closes the rest of his fingers to just being a 1.
And then I think as they were going to commercial, you hear Ellsworth say, he thinks I'm number 1.
I didn't hear that part. That would be funny.
Which popped me as well. Coming back from the commercial break, it is a cell phone promo from Andrade Cien Almas, I Don't Wrestle on SmackDown, and his managerette, Selena Vega. There's a infographic on 411. It's a Twitter post. Since he was drafted to SmackDown, 2 matches against local wrestlers, 8 non-appearances. Non-matches.
While this one I'm perfectly fine with, my point still stands even on singles competitors.
Andrade hater. James Ellsworth comes out to the ring because that's just exactly what this show needed, more Ellsworth. And he talks about the fact that he took care of Asuka when she tried to take Carmella's title. And then he talks about the fact that Asuka ruined Carmella's celebration. He claims that there is no love for he and Asuka, nor is there any respect, and that he wasn't ready for her last week, but he's ready for her now and dares him to try to come do what she did last week again. Instead of getting Asuka, though, he gets a different female, the general manager, Paige, who tells him that he's very well aware of the fact that Asuka's over in Australia. How many people did they send to Australia? Jesus.
A bunch, apparently. Well, also there's I think it was also, at least in part, a helping a travel help, because they have either today or yesterday or sometime this week, they have a show in Japan. It's
possible. I know Asuka was in Australia, and then she was probably going from Australia to Japan, but regardless. Oh, wait, next week SmackDown's live from Tokyo, so they might be getting ready to do those shows next week.
They're not.
So they're.
No, they aren't.
Yeah, they are. They just said Jason Ayers, the referee, tweeted about being in Tokyo for SmackDown next week.
I think that's house shows, but maybe.
I don't know, but I think that they're. I think that the TVs are going to be live from Japan next week. Well, live on tape delay.
Yes.
We'll see. I mean, I could be wrong, but I think I remember reading that on Jason Ayers' Twitter.
Huh.
Anyway, back to this segment here. Not that there's really a whole lot to talk about.
No.
Once again, Paige lets Ellsworth know that he knows Asuka's not in the building, and that's why he called her out. And then says that Asuka will be getting a rematch against Carmella at Extreme Rules. Ellsworth says that Asuka doesn't deserve a rematch, and then states that Paige is checking him out. The segment proceeds to go off a cliff. Not that it wasn't off one to begin with. And the end result, because I'm done talking about this segment, is that Ellsworth has a match next week on SmackDown against Asuka. Yippee.
I really hope, especially, well, I mean, first off, I'm hoping and praying that you're wrong and that Asuka does win this. But especially considering Asuka should win this match, they should, especially considering how the match ended at Money in the Bank, And considering what this pay-per-view supposedly is supposed to be coming up in July, even though a couple of years ago they completely bastardized it by having the exact opposite, but I digress. This should be either, a steel cage match or an Ellsworth in a cage match or something like that.
I think the last thing we need is Ellsworth in a cage. Freaky.
Oh, it would be hilarious. What would be better, him or Enzo?
Okay, first of all, we do not say the name Enzo on this show anymore. No. Bad, Brandon. And I am incorrect. SmackDown next week is in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I obviously misinterpreted Jason's post.
Yeah, they're doing a house show either this week or next week in Tokyo.
I'm assuming this weekend.
Yes.
Anyway, back to the talking point at hand here. I just don't understand why we're wasting time doing these intergender matches. We've already done this match once before. We already did this match once before when Becky Lynch tapped Ellsworth with the disarm her, and that was the match. That was the match that Carmella turned her back on James as well, and he left the WWE with. Do we really need to go back down that well already? I'm aware that Ellsworth has been doing the intergender Andy Kaufman thing on the independent scene. I'm very well aware of that. But at the same time, it's not enough to make me care about seeing it on a bigger stage.
Yeah, especially when, because of how WWE... Wow. I sounded like Kurt Angle. Especially considering how WWE is when it comes to that sort of thing, we know how it's going to go. We know it's just going to be a squash.
Yeah, Asuka just kicking Ellsworth's ass.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't care. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with seeing Ellsworth getting his ass kicked, but,
realistically speaking, do we need this match?
Exactly. And the answer is no. Absolutely not. Unless it has some sort of stipulation to it of, if Asuka wins, which we all know she will, whoever wins the match gets to choose the stipulation for the match. And if that's the case, then maybe it will lead to something.
Whatever just fell in your bedroom over there agrees with your point.
That's what Ellsworth's going to be doing when he faces Asuka. Just whee!
Harper stares into nothingness backstage, as is the Bludgeon Brothers' modus operandi, while Bryan warms up for his match with an assistance from the Good Brothers. I said they didn't wrestle on this episode of SmackDown. I didn't say they didn't appear. You surprised to see the Good Brothers kind of giving back up to Bryan here? I mean, theoretically, it makes sense since they're coming off of facing the Bludgeons themselves. But wouldn't you think that the Good Brothers would be pissed off that they're now out of the tag team title picture and Daniel Bryan is in?
I mean, well, they didn't know that Daniel was in the tag team title picture at this point.
So maybe they were just buttering him up to get one of them to team with him?
Well, either that or it's just, the mutual respect for each other because of both of them being in Japan and, them being friends with AJ and all of that.
Main event, scheduled for one fall.
One fall.
Is the aforementioned Daniel Bryan versus Harper. No Luke, just Harper. I don't like that he's lost his first name.
It will always be Luke Harper and Eric Rowan to me.
Yes. The match itself goes about 13 minutes and sees a disqualification finish when Bryan puts the yes lock on Harper and Eric Rowan decides to have none of this bupkis and interrupts for the disqualification. The match itself is actually pretty good, I thought.
Oh, definitely.
But then again, it's nothing we haven't really seen from these guys before, back when it was the Wyatt family edition of Harper and Rowan taking on Daniel Bryan as well.
Yeah. I mean, this is a match that we've seen before. Both of them can work. But this was definitely a means to an end type of match.
I mean, I would make the argument that Harper might be the best big man worker on the roster.
this point, I would probably say yes, but there is an even bigger man, both in name and in size, that is definitely getting up there and definitely getting way better than anyone thought.
Okay, Braun has gotten better. He's still not as good of a worker as
Oh,
Harper
no, I
is.
didn't say that. I was saying he's getting close to that level. He's not there yet.
Post-match is what everybody's going to talk about. We might as well get to that now. Harper and Rowan taking advantage of Bryan in a 2-on-1 situation, and then the save is made by Kane. Wait, what? Didn't you just end his career like 3 years ago? Anyway, Kane makes the save.
You know continuity doesn't matter in WWE.
Kane makes the save. Bryan joins in, and they clear the ring of Bludgeon Brothers. A Baisuku knee, knee plus, I think is what the WWE called it. And Kane chokeslamming Harper. Kane offers the hug in the Team Hell No reunion. Bryan seems hesitant, but eventually it's yeses all around, and Paige comes out to seal the deal as at Extreme Rules for the tag team titles of the SmackDown brand, it will be Harper and Rowan taking on Daniel Bryan and Kane. Team Hell No rides again. All right. So it's the most obvious point of contention to me out of the way already. I already talked about it here. It's at the last time that we saw Kane and Bryan, Kane was quite literally trying to kill Bryan for the authority.
But, and while I'll agree with you to an extent, they already kind of wrote their way out of that in storyline back then.
Is it because that was corporate Kane and he
Yes.
was brainwashed?
Yes, and because they were doing that whole split personality thing.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah. Like when he had the mask on, he was a different person. But
Yes.
he had the mask on when he was wrestling Bryan, when he had the pay-per-view match against him at Extreme Rules, no less.
You're right. I forgot about that. I was thinking he had the mask off at that point.
No, he took the mask off after the match, after Bryan put him through a flaming table.
Oh, okay.
Yes, those used to be words in WWE lexicon. Flaming table. Anywho. So now the more obvious point comes up here. How do you feel about Bryan and Kane basically leapfrogging the entire tag team division on SmackDown and moving into this opportunity at Extreme Rules? Like, I get it for nostalgia's sake. Like, I completely understand from a nostalgia perspective. And I think this is kind of where Liz was going when she was complaining about this while we were talking about it in the group chat. Like, I get it from a nostalgia perspective, but from a current timeline perspective, it doesn't make any sense that a team that hasn't teamed in like 5 years can come in and immediately jump to the forefront of the tag team title division.
But, I mean, we've seen... It's not like this is the first time we've ever seen this before. You know, this seems... Like I said before, this seems to be WWE's MO for the past 3 years. Has been, we don't know what we're doing with the tag team division, so we're just going to make random teams or bring back teams or what have you, and they're going to be the forefront of the division over the established and organic teams that we have already. I mean, hell, look at who won the inaugural SmackDown Live tag team titles. Harry?
Sorry, technical difficulties. I'm back.
Okay.
No, Heath Slater and Rhino, I'm aware.
Yes. Heath Slater and Rhino, and then moving a few months forward, you have Sheamus and Cesaro, who were at each other's throats for the better part of 2 months prior to that, and then suddenly they're propelled into the tag title picture and win the titles on Raw. You have I'm sure there's a few others that I'm missing, but, you get the
Oh
point.
no, I'm not. Look at the reunion of Harper and Rowan as well, because they were both doing Jack and Squad as singles competitors.
See,
no, I'm not.
There's at least a little bit of a chemistry behind it, because
But those two were beating the crap out of each other for like 4 months.
True. I'll give you that.
My point to this being, though, is that I kind of understand where Liz is coming from in terms of the nostalgia pop. At the same time, as somebody who was a big fan of the Team Hell No era, it was the launch into the upper stratosphere for Bryan, because he went straight from Team Hell No to being involved in the main event of WrestleMania.
Yep.
So, to me, I look at this from a fond perspective, nostalgically, and I'm okay with it. My question, and obviously I think this is going to drive up ticket sales, and I think this is going to drive up network interest for this particular show.
Oh, yeah.
That being said, the question to me to come out of this to you is, where do you see this going long term? Do you think this is a short-term solution to this problem, or do you think this is something that we get for an extended period of time, or at least until Kane has to leave to go take care of his mayoral duties?
I think that was what I was kind of trying to talk about without directly mentioning it earlier, is I feel like they're going to have them maybe even win the titles at Extreme Rules. Have them hold them. I don't know when Kane has to, go crazy back onto the campaign trail where he'd have to drop the titles. If it would be September or October or what have you, or if he's basically done until November. But
I'd assume there's going to be a good bit of campaigning between now and September.
That's true.
Because with the election between now and October, the elections the first Tuesday in November.
Yes, yeah. But considering that, if he has the time to do it, which he wouldn't sign up to do something like this if he didn't. But if he has the time to be able to hold on to the titles for a little bit, and hey, maybe this could be kind of a way, not directly, but kind of indirectly, this could be, something he's kind of trying to do as a way to, help his campaign. But, if he has the time to do it, I would say have them hold on to the titles until maybe, like October or something. Have them lose them. Have something happen between the two. I don't know how exactly you would do it, but have Kane get taken out by Miz or something, and then have that lead to the beginning of Bryan's singles run again, leading into Mania.
Well, I don't doubt that Kane being around in order to help Bryan here as well would. Okay, let me try this again here. Stop, rewind. All right. I got tongue twisted there, and I wanted to restart my statement here. All right. I don't doubt that Kane is going to use this run with Bryan here to help raise his exposure to the wrestling fan base in the area where he's campaigning already. But at the same time, I think that the wrestling fan base are the people that are already voting for him.
True.
On general principle. I don't think that he needs that wrestling fan base vote. I could see Kane coming around in order to try to make more friends, to bring people in to help him on the campaign trail, much the same way he did for his primary.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not see this as a long-term situation. I expect Kane to be gone by September.
So you think if anything, it's going to be a 1-month title reign of, them winning it?
I don't think they win the titles.
I just don't see how, without winning the titles, or at least doing something with it, how this really helps Bryan in the long term of building towards, what everyone is assuming that they're heading towards, which is, them doing something with him at Mania.
Well, I think they're heading towards him and Miz. I don't know that they're necessarily heading towards any kind of a title opportunity at Mania, but I think they're definitely heading towards something with him and Miz. I thought it could happen as early as SummerSlam, and we kind of talked about that when we did our pay-per-view predictions for Money in the Bank. Obviously, that's not in the card, so it might be a case of them dragging out the Miz thing until next year's WrestleMania.
Well, actually, not necessarily. You could, in theory, have Miz, if this is the case, if you're saying that, there's no way that they're going to win the titles, you could have Miz take out Kane.
Be the reason that they don't win the title.
Exactly. And then, somehow Kane gets taken out to where he's not around, and then Bryan goes after Miz.
And that's an entirely viable circumstance, assuming that it happens.
The only thing about this, and you already talked about it, and certain people may not necessarily like it, but with how their whole storyline was on their first run, I feel like you have to give them the tag titles, at least for a little bit, just so that we get their iconic thing that they used to do. I know it doesn't work as well now with them both basically being faces, but it would still be funny to see.
I hate to tell you this, Brandon, but I'm the tag team champions.
No, I'm the tag team champions.
Okay, we're going to run that into the ground if we don't stop, so let's go ahead and call it a show right here. That officially wraps up this episode of SmackDown, June 26th, 2018. Let's put a nice little bow on this one, Brandon. Scale of 1 to 10, where do you fall?
I'll give it a 7. The ending was a lot of fun, obviously for nostalgia reasons. But even in modern times, it's still fun. It's still going to be fun to see them do what they do. But other than that, obviously the Shinsuke injury affected this. But other than that, there wasn't really much to talk about on this show, and the whole sanity thing was a very boneheaded decision.
Yeah, I'm going to fall somewhere around a 6, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm kind of skewed away from the sanity thing a lot more than maybe most people are, just because I know what sanity's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
Having seen their run in NXT, and having them lose the way that they did in their first 6-man tag team match on SmackDown, I feel does them no favors.
See, I feel like I'm a little more lenient on it, only because I saw this coming, and I've been forewarning you about this for months now. So, it doesn't affect me nearly as much as it used to anymore.
In addition, I do appreciate the whole nostalgia run for Team Hell No, but I'm not sure necessarily where it leaves the rest of the SmackDown Tag Team division, because there are 2 bruising bullies in the SmackDown Tag division we haven't seen on TV in a while, and I'm hoping it's not because of injury. Because they were in the dark match before SmackDown this week, so I don't think it is. If anybody should have the balls to step up to Harper and Rowan, it should be Cesaro and Sheamus, should it not?
You would think, but again, the tag team division on both shows now. It used to be only on Raw, but now on SmackDown even. It seems to be very much flavor of the week type, where there really isn't any cohesive plan, and they just kind of do what they feel. It's kind of a last thought. It's kind of just a throwaway type of thing for them now.
Regardless, I think that it's going to end up being a situation with the God, I lost my train of thought right now. Sorry. Go ahead, Brandon. Say something.
I just don't think that, until they decide to make a drastic change again, This is going to be the way the tag team division is going to be for the foreseeable future.
Thank you. I'm back here. All right, I apologize for that, guys. I had a little bit of a brain freeze there, and I don't know why. The whole Cesaro and Sheamus thing is where I was going with this year. I think that rather than reuniting the nostalgia act of Team Hell No, there are other ways to get to the Miz and Bryan storyline without having Bryan have to retrace the steps of his history.
I'll agree with that.
And I think for current fans, they would be just as interested in seeing Sheamus and Cesaro taking on Harper and Rowan as they are in Bryan and Kane. There's a nostalgia factor for the fans that have been watching for a longer period of time of seeing Bryan and Kane reunited. But at the same time, I have just as much interest in seeing Cesaro and Sheamus taking on Harper and Rowan as I do Bryan and Kane.
I mean, this is partially my own bias, but I'm perfectly fine with seeing Bryan and Kane. I mean, I'm not as big of a fan of Cesaro and Sheamus as a lot of other people are. That's definitely part of it. But, I think also, and, while WWE doesn't necessarily, they don't necessarily plan for something like this, but if you really think about it, the stuff like Bryan and Kane and certain nostalgia acts, if you do it on a limited basis, it actually kind of works in drawing in those new fans, because if they're friends with fans who have been watching longer, they get that history and they start to appreciate it more and start to focus on the show more, I feel.
One word review, Brandon.
I'll say hit and miss with apostrophes. Or with hyphens, I mean.
Yeah, dashes.
Yes, dashes. The end was good. Certain matches, certain endings were good in moving stories along and getting people some momentum back and whatnot. But other things like the Sanity situation were just very boneheaded decisions. So I'll say hit and miss.
Turmoil.
Yep.
Because I found things that I liked and I found things that I didn't like about this show, and it was kind of like right in the middle ground for me. There's a reason I went with a 6. The in-ring action on tonight's episode was actually pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The stories that were being told actually had some semblance of reason to be told. Miz continuing to hide behind the Bludgeon Brothers when it comes to Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Hardy promising a reawakened Jeff Hardy now that he's back on a full-time basis on SmackDown after his issues over the past couple of months. Won't go into specifics. Most people already know them. If you don't watch the 24/7 on the Hardys, it's well worth the watch anyway. So there's plenty of stories that are being told right now that definitely garner the attention that the brand wants to garner. But at the same time, there's some very weird ways of going about getting to those stories that I think is going to take away from the attention that the brand is garnering, such as something that's not going to sit well with the NXT fans and the loss of Sanity in their first match.
Oh, yeah.
Something that's not going to sit well with fans in general, the bait and switch of 2 different matches here. Granted, one was one of those things where it happens, who would have saw Shinsuke get bitten by a police dog. But the other one is you kind of knew that you had this promotional thing with Australia for the Super Showdown coming up. Why advertise Becky Lynch and Peyton Royce?
Yeah, that one was really stupid on their part. That I did not understand at all.
And then they had to put together a thrown together backstage segment between Becky and Sonya as well that looked dumb as well. We didn't even talk about it on the show.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I didn't even remember that segment even happening.
Yeah, there was a bit right before the match where they showed Becky having an interview and they talked about Peyton not being there. And then she said, that's okay. It's all right. Becky Balboa will take care of things. And then Sonya came up and said, oh, you string together a couple of wins and now all of a sudden you're Becky Balboa?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
They set up the match from there. But anyway, my point being is that this show does a lot of things really well, but it does a lot of things that frustrate the hell out of wrestling fans as well, too.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead and make your plugs, Brandon.
We've got Fantasy Football to the Max coming up later on tonight. Our 2-round... What?
Thursday, June 28th,
yes.
For the sake of those wondering and the sake of putting a timeline on this.
Yes. Where we will have our 2-round mock rookie draft for the 2018 season. And this will be a collaboration with the kickoff, so it'll be all 4 of us, Harry, myself, Eric Watkins, and Jason Teasley. And then beyond that, don't really have much else to plug.
Yes, you do.
What, NXT?
That's coming up later today. In addition, there's another show that we're about to record once we're done with this one, and
N205.
I snapped some sanity back into my head so that way I'm not stuttering and stumbling all over myself like I have for this past 45 minutes.
So what, you put Eric Young, Alexander Wolf, and Killian Dean back in your head?
Yes. Burn it. Okay, I'm good. In addition, we should probably update people on our coming soon trip down memory lane as well.
Yes, where are you now? January of 95?
January 10th ECW of 1995, which means I sit less than 6 months away from the start of How the War Was Won with Harry Broadhurst and Brandon Biskobing. We will take a weekly look at Nitro versus Raw, and possibly a weekly look at Thunder versus SmackDown, assuming they get the episodes of Thunder up in time. Could you imagine having to do episodes for Thunder and SmackDown as well?
God, I don't think we should do that. That would just be. Plus, there really aren't any that wasn't the big ratings war, so I don't even know. Like, I was thinking we should talk about the
you
numbers.
You just don't want to watch Thunder.
Yeah. I really don't. If we're gonna do that, we might as well watch the bastardization of Clash of Champions.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, there is an August Clash of the Champions that will fall into our timeline.
Yeah, I know.
That runs against SummerSlam, buddy.
Yeah, I know. And it was a debacle.
Our opening show, though, will be the In Your House 2 pay-per-view taking on Bash at the Beach 1995.
I'm going to have so much fun talking about the most infamous In Your House once we get to it, especially because it was like it was I think it was the last pay-per-view ever to occur around here.
Just beware of dog. Somebody should have told Shinsuke that.
That's a good one.
Thank you. And I think I'm going to go out on top. He's Brandon Biskobing. I'm Harry Broadhurst. Thanks for listening to the Wrestling to the Max SmackDown live review, available online at W2Mnet.com. In addition, you can listen to this show on where you listen to most of your favorite podcasts: iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, CastBox, Stitcher, YouTube. Hey, Brandon.
Yes.
I hear we're coming somewhere soon.
Spotify, coming soon.
Eventually. I believe the word we're looking for is eventually.
I still need to look up that promo that I always forget who did it. I want to say it was Steiner who did it on Glacier. Or no, it was Big Bubba Rogers who did it on Glacier.
He's Brandon. I'm Harry. We'll talk to you soon for 205 here on the W2M Network. Have a good night, everybody.